I smell a rat. The most unpopular guy ever becomes the first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote. But that's probably just cope, as the kids call it. Trump had a 52% unfavorable rating. He ranks 12 in popularity among American politicians. Harris ranks 3. 5 years ago, this country was ready to elect a Democratic Socialist as president. And now the country is chock full of self-punishing, self-loathing fascists. But I guess this is what the kids call cope. I'm coping and I'm seething. Before the election, the press was talking about Republican loyalists infiltrating election boards to disrupt voting with new and unnecessary regulations, removing names off of voter rolls, and now there's not a word about it. Is it possible that this is the first election in my lifetime where a Republican didn't cheat? But that's just cope. That's just cope and seethe. The good news is there's plenty of room for voter shaming, which is a thing that I love to do, because this thing should not have even been close. This is like finding out the majority of Americans are pro-cancer. Here's a clip from the majority report, and it should be noted that once again, Sam Cedar is not in the room while something stupid is being said.
Says this is a long one, but I read this quote and it seemed really appropriate for the time. Historians have a word for Germans who joined the Nazi Party not because they hated Jews, but out of a hope for restored patriotism or a sense of economic anxiety or a hope to preserve their religious values or dislike of their opponents or raw political opportunism or convenience or ignorance or greed. That word is Nazi. Historians study their motives, but that there is a broad understanding. Their motives don't exonerate them. They joined what they joined. They lent their support and their moral approval, and in so doing, they bound themselves to everything that came after. Who cares anymore what particular knot they used in the binding? A.R. Moxon. I mean, there's validity there. It's interesting. Maybe I'll.
What about Americans who vote for like Joe Biden? Like, are they responsible for the genocide in Gaza? Like,
we didn't vote for Biden. We voted for Bernie, and then when Bernie was pushed out, we voted for the guy who wasn't Trump. And that happened to be Biden, who at no point during his campaign promised to eradicate the Palestinian people. But did you know who did promise to do that this year? That would be Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And that means that if you sat on the sidelines and allowed this dude to win, then at the very least, you are indifferent to genocide. But don't worry, Matt Leck. You're not alone. In the late 30s, the vast majority of Americans were against allowing European Jews from entering this country. And you know why? Because this country adored Nazis. Or in the very least, they were indifferent. No, they love Nazis. They love Nazis until they didn't. And now, for some reason, we call them the greatest generation. Harris made a big mistake when she campaigned with Liz Cheney. But Liz Cheney's dad was the author of an illegal war that 70% of Americans supported. Now, I challenge Matt here, or anyone else, to find one of these people today. They're not around. You'll never find somebody who will defend the invasion of Iraq. Americans like to do two things. They like to do evil shit, and they like to do refusing to take responsibility for doing evil shit. If Harris and the Democrats have agency when it comes to their own decisions, then so do the voters. And since when do we not shame people for doing bad things? This is the most absurd. listen. This channel's going to be all about shaming till the end of time. Speaking of which, there's an article I found about some comments that Jerry Seinfeld made, which I'm sure he'll retract per usual. The Ethical Culture Fieldston School, that's a mouthful, which has campuses in the Bronx and Manhattan and costs $65,540 a year, recently announced that it will make attendance optional on the Wednesday after Election Day for students who feel too emotionally distressed, reports the New York Times. It will also provide counselors for students who seek support and assistance in the wake of the election. Seinfeld, whose sons attended the school, slammed the institution's handling of the election, declaring that this kind of behavior ultimately prompted his youngest son, Shepard, to be transferred to another private school in the 8th grade. Nope, that's not true. That part's not true. Seinfeld pulled his kid out. This is why the kids hated it, Seinfeld told the Times. What kind of lives have these people led that makes them think that this is the right way to handle young people? The outlet also noted that Seinfeld called the publication again to clarify that his kids don't hate the school itself, but specifically dislike the policies that they viewed as overly sensitive. The school is being overly sensitive. Democracy's over? What's the big deal? There's more important things to worry about. Democracy's over? What's the big deal? There's more important things to worry about. Like, why do they spell Q, Q-U-E-U-E? Why all the extra letters when just the one will do? And if it's not helping anybody, why do they call it AIDS? Ethan Klein had a similar reaction when he found out Google's for Canadian immigration spiked after Trump was elected. Why? What's better than what we have here? Run away? I'm not going anywhere. What's the matter, boss? We sick? Okay, fellas, I hear your point. We're all being overly sensitive. So now do that with 9/11. I knew a lot of grown-ass men who were sent home for work after 9/11. Some of those guys were Teamsters. Go and tell them that they're a bunch of sensitive snowflakes. Am I trivializing tragedy? Is that what I'm doing right now? Maybe I am. You know what? That's probably true. 3,000 Americans died on 9/11. By the time Trump left office in 2020, he killed 400,000 people by way of a pandemic that he allowed to happen accidentally on purpose. Better yet, how about this? Do that with October 7th. I mean, I'm a little upset at the prospect of losing my Social Security. I mean, I'm more than a little upset. But I am not such a sensitive snowflake that I go around sniping kids in the head over it.